Coming up, what an excellent day for Lee J. Cobb. Well, howdy folks, and welcome to Minute 64 of The Exorcist Minute, a show where we endeavor to examine, extrapolate, and excavate The Exorcist, minute by terrifying minute. My name is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I'm Keenan Diaz.
And we'll be your holy guides on this journey through what some have called the scariest movie of all time. Okay, so our minute begins where we last left off, with us peeking slyly out at Karras from behind the bleachers as he runs around the track.
And it ends with Lieutenant William F. Kinderman saying, "People tell you that, Father?"
Yes, folks, we got a new character here, Lieutenant William F. Kinderman. I'm so excited to meet him. But before we do, let's get back to the top here. We're back behind those bleachers. We're being real sneaky, and we're following Dimmy, and then, hey, wait, who's this? It's like we got distracted by this other guy who's just sort of like appeared out of nowhere, but he hasn't appeared out of nowhere. He's been here the whole time.
He's been a hidden something, a hidden Kinderman, like our hidden howdies.
Hidden Kinderman.
Say that 3 times fast, real quick.
Right? Yeah. But yeah, so the whole time we were creeping on Karras, watching him run from behind those bleachers, thinking ourselves some real slick sleuths. There's another thing you can say 3 times fast. Some top-notch detectives. That's what we thought we were. And then here's this guy, right? He's sitting on the bleachers, just reading a newspaper, or pretending to, hiding in plain sight, watching Karras as he runs. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't want to go past this shot. This is a beautiful shot. The camera emerges out from behind the bleachers and sort of creeps up behind this guy. At first, it almost looks as though we're going to read the paper over his shoulder, but then it does this sweeping reveal out from behind the bleacher railing to look at this guy's face. It's almost as if we're a helicopter coming up on a snowy mountain peak, right? We've circled it, and now we're getting a glimpse of this craggy face.
That's a good word for it, craggy.
It's very craggy, right? In the dictionary, right next to craggy, there is a picture of William F. Kinderman's face. I'm not saying he's a good looking guy, but he is craggy.
I was just reading about Jesus and Simon Peter, as I often do. And Jesus gave Simon Peter a nickname, and he gave him the name Cephas, or Cephas. You might have read that somewhere. And I guess that means, people debate about what that was supposed to mean. But one of the things is like it's stone, like he's tough, or it means jewel, like he's precious. And one of them is crag.
Oh,
he's a crag. So the first pope was Crag.
I wonder if that's where Craig comes from.
I don't know. I don't know what a Craig is.
Oh. If you're going in like, buying like varying sizes of rocks, right? Like is it called Cragslist?
Oh God.
You saw that coming a mile away.
I did not. But yeah, our guy's got a craggy old face. He certainly does.
Yep. Cragslist. That's the alternate universe in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like that's what they shop on, is Cragslist. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. God, I'm gonna. That's gonna be an effort. Is not talking about that movie. God.
Now that you've seen that, yeah.
Now that I've seen it, like so many times. I've given so much money to that thing. I've seen it in theaters. I bought it on Amazon. I'm getting the DVD.
Oh yeah, that's what I've done with The Exorcist. Yeah.
Right.
I have it on Amazon. I have it on Blu-ray. I have it everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Okay. But yeah, so we don't know who this guy is yet, but we can see now that he's watching our boy Karras, and we can see in the very next cut that our boy Karras is also watching him. Make a note of that, folks. From the very beginning, these two are aware of each other, right? On many different levels, they are aware of each other.
Yeah, and I like that because you've said, this wonderful shot from behind the bleachers. It makes us look like we're being voyeurs, right? Like we're watching, and then the scene becomes about these two men watching each other.
Yes, yeah. Now, we cut back to our new guy, right? I see you seeing me, is what this look seems to say. And I don't care, is the rest of that thought as he looks back down at his paper. But as Karras comes in on the final lap, our newcomer folds his paper and he stands up, right? He's no longer pretending to read, and Karras is no longer pretending to run. Of one accord, these two men decide to stop pretending. Father Karras, the newcomer says, He's taken off his glasses, and Karras has stopped running and is reaching for his towel on the seat of the bleachers. He also does something that I can't quite make out. Keenan, it looks like Karras grabs something small and is about to take a bite. Do you see that?
Well, I was hoping that you, as the athlete among us, would know what the hell that was. Is he eating because you're a voice actor, right? And there's all these, no dairy ahead of time. And I don't know if we want to peek into your behind the scenes stuff, but you eat sour apples, right? Before you start to perform.
Right. Yeah.
So is there some running thing you're supposed to eat? Is this just a brick of Gouda or something?
I mean, I don't think you're supposed to eat anything before you run.
Well, this is afterwards, right? Is it an orange slice like you get at soccer practice,
See, that's the only thing. That was the first thing that popped into my mind, was that maybe it's an orange slice or something like that. It looks almost like it's like a very small piece of something, almost like a piece of bread or something like that.
Is it his Christ bread? That's not what it's called.
Is Christ bread?
Oh goodness, what's it called? His wafer.
I believe that's called a Jeez-It. No, I stole that. I stole that also.
Oh no, I was gonna praise you forever.
Hang on. Let's praise him.
Flavor blasted Jeez-It.
Jeez-It. Who said it? God, I stepped in it now.
I was gonna hail you as our new comedy king.
Yeah. See, guys, at least I'm honest. Let's see.
Right, exactly.
Let's say Jeez-It. Oh God, I cannot find it.
Oh no! Well, it's yours until we can can find the guy who did it. Some other brilliant person said it.
Right? Maybe this will up our engagement. I'll just say that I invented it. And listeners, you can write in if you know the brilliant comedian who actually said this. And you can embarrass me, and I'll read it on the air.
All right, but so Father Karras is not eating a communion wafer, which is the word I just remembered.
Yes.
So he's not eating a communion wafer, but it's something. It's interesting. Like, this is the kind of thing that I'm sure it's not in the script. It's not in the book. I'm sure this is something that the actor was like, oh well, to be real, this is what it should be, and then.
Right.
We're hearing this wide shot. Now the audience has no idea what this is. He's not eating his priest collar, is he?
You know what? Like, he saw it in the hospital ward, and he was like, maybe this lady's onto something.
I've never licked my own priest collar. Maybe I should.
It could be. He could be verse jumping. I don't know. That's an Everything Everywhere All at Once reference again. I got to stop it. I got to stop this.
Yeah, but he's doing some kind of business, which is interesting. But yeah, so if anyone was a runner in the 70s and knows what, that's what I'm thinking this is. It's some runner's habit in the 70s to eat something after a run.
Yeah, it's got to be something like exclusive to like 70s, early 80s, something like that. Because like, as far as I know, like if this were today, or even like late 90s, he would have, I don't know, like a bottle of water or some Gatorade or something like that. Or an orange slice, but it would be like very obviously an orange slice. Maybe.
Right. Gatorade was not too big yet. So, so I don't know when that would have been, but it was invented in the 65. And then it was famous in like the 69 Orange Bowl, if I remember correctly. Maybe this is just a brick of salt to get his electrolytes up or something like that.
Yeah. You're just biting down on some salt.
Yeah, it's a salt lick.
There we go. It's a salt lick.
To reward yourself for running.
I was at this bar when it was this horseman, and I borrowed it from him. And, or, just it's an edible cigarette. That's what it is. Because this is the 70s, right? Got to get your cigarettes in, But yeah, so he then drapes the towel over his shoulders and he says, "Have we met?" After which he pops the rest of whatever that is in his mouth. "No, we haven't met, but they said I could tell that you look like a boxer." Our newcomer steps down from the bleachers and introduces himself as William F. Kinderman. Homicide. Karras is out of breath and he puts on his jacket. What's this all about? But instead of answering, the man called Kinderman smiles and reflects that yes, it's true. He does look like a boxer. He then puts a finger up as if trying to find the name, and he finds it. John Garfield. Yes, John Garfield, body and soul. John Garfield. People tell you that, Father? Now, in the book, which I think we'll get to in the next minute, he actually compares him to Marlon Brando, specifically from On the Waterfront.
Yeah, that's the script version as well. He's like waterfront, he calls it. So he even shorthands it to waterfront.
So not even Marlon Brando. I wonder if
he says Brando, but he says like waterfront Brando. Like, so he's like a movie buff. It's very clear by calling on the shortening it, saving all that time, not saying on the waterfront.
You can't be. He's a homicide detective, right? In the time it takes him to say "on the," right?
Yeah, like
lives are at stake.
Homicide detectives and theater people, right? They don't have enough time. So streetcar. I was in streetcar.
Yeah.
I was in Henry V instead of, that's what they say in theater circles.
Yeah,
instead of Henry V. We don't have time for that.
Right. Just got done with a production of Much Ado.
Exactly.
Father, you ever see that movie, The French? By Oscar-winning director William Fried.
Right. I guess we do say like Godfather 2, even though it's clearly The Godfather Part 2.
But oddly, I've heard people say Alien 2. Which takes longer to say than Aliens.
But every time you talk about Alien, you have to have that. Which Alien? Anytime you say Alien, the other person has to clarify which one you mean. So it doesn't help to say Alien or Aliens. You still have to clarify every single time.
And even when you say Aliens, like when I try to clarify that I'm talking about the second installment of the Alien franchise, right? And I don't want to say Alien 2. I want to sound a little bit smarter than that. So I'll say Aliens, but I'll say it in a way that makes me sound dumber, actually. I'll be like, oh, but in the movie Aliens. And I'll just really emphasize that ending S.
Syllable, yeah. Right. Well, how do you do it? So Alien to mean the first one.
Are you angry? No, I'm just talking about aliens.
Just trying to save time. There's not a lot of time here.
Yeah. How do you expect to watch all these movies if you're wasting time on the titles?
Right.
What are they gonna shorten Everything Everywhere All at Once to?
Well, it's EEAAO.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just have to get used to saying yow.
Yeah.
And then have people know what we mean. Yeah.
Right. I love it.
Because you can't say everything, right? Because then that doesn't work.
They didn't make it easy, did they? To talk about this movie.
That was not their intention. No.
Exorcist. Now there you go. Right.
That's a title.
We know.
You know what you're getting.
Exorcist 2, Exorcist 3. Perfect. Right. Didn't even call it Legion. It was like, let's call it Exorcist 3. Oh.
So anyways, did you look up to see what John Garfield, I don't want to assume you didn't know who John Garfield was, but.
Oh, no. I did look up John Garfield. And I will say that Father Karras looks up, or Jason Miller, let's say, looks about as much like John Garfield as he does Marlon Brando, which is to say not much.
Well, he's got the dark hair and looks like a boxer, I suppose, right?
True, right? Again, living as we do in the future, it's hard to compare our Father Karras, right, played by Jason Miller, to anyone other than Rocky, right? Like young Sylvester Stallone,
right?
Maybe Dave Seville from the Chipmunks.
Wait, is that real? Does he look like Dave Seville? I've never seen Dave Seville.
I'm just seeing. Wait, you've never seen David Seville?
No, I only.
It's like the guy, like Alvin,
Oh, I thought you meant like the real person, like the real guy who plays Dave Seville.
No. I'm talking about the cartoon one.
Yes, he looks like yes, definitely.
I'm just saying, like I've seen. Like fan art of Father Karras, and cartoon Karras translates into a pretty good Dave Seville, like just this like dark haired, like put upon, like sympathetic but also no nonsense at the same time, right? Like he's in the middle of that spectrum between like live action Rocky Balboa and cartoon Dave Seville.
All right.
Instead of Alvin, he just shouts Regan, right? And her and Captain Howdy are just like a pair of mischievous pranksters, and Karras is their poor like therapist who's always getting dragged into these crazy shenanigans, right? They come back from digging up tombs and learning about mummies with Uncle Marin, and who's the guy who's got to bring them back down to earth? It's Dr. Karras, right? I'm writing this, by the way. This is happening. Nobody steal this. This is my idea. It's going to be like the Beetlejuice cartoon, right? It's going to be Howdy and Regan, and they're best friends, and Howdy is a little scamp, and he doesn't quite understand human rules and human society, and Karras is there, not quite like wet blanket, but like he's like their tether, right? He keeps them grounded.
Right. Well, if you can work on that, I mean, we're always giving each other career advice as, struggling up and coming artists. And if you can figure out a way to make a cartoon that gets a Christmas number, like the hula hoop song from the Chipmunks, you'll be set for life.
Oh, yeah.
So if you can get a Regan and Captain Howdy hula hoop type song, you had it made, my friend.
Well, this is my next big goal. I'm setting out to do this.
I just want a hula hoop.
Oh my God.
Now, it's interesting because John Garfield and certainly the real actor here, Lee J. Cobb, would have known. He did know Marlon Brando. We know that because they performed together in On the Waterfront.
Right.
So perhaps that's why we don't have a mention of Waterfront here, because people would be like, "Oh, well, that's fucking Lee J. Cobb from On the Waterfront."
Oh, okay, yeah, I see that. Yeah,
people are like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" But certainly, John. I mean, he must have known John Garfield. They would have been in the same circles at the same times in New York in the 30s. So
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So I guess we should talk a little more about Lee J. Cobb here.
Yes, I'm excited about this.
Yeah. So Lee J. Cobb is a really, really very important actor. So we'll know him for his film work, but I want to start with his theater work, where he had grown up in New York, Russian Jewish, and he made it into NYU and got into the group theater, which is where he almost certainly would have met John Garfield. Again, I don't have any smoking gun, or there might be a movie that I'm just not thinking about where they were in together, but John Garfield was in the group theater, and so is Lee J. Cobb, and he was one of the first major method actors, like the real American method actors, that we normally associate with Brando. Right. But so Cobb would have been there
with Strasberg then.
He would have studied with Kazan, and at the group theater that would have been Strasberg and Harold Clurman and Cheryl Crawford and all of those people, and the Stella Adler, all of those people. Yeah,
gotcha.
Would have been through the group theater. Yeah. So basically, the group theater is where method acting came from in America. Like, of course, if you are adherent to another of their rival schools, you'll hate me saying that, but basically, what was happening was that Stanislavski was working in Russia and developing this new style of acting and directing actors. And we had Americans going over there to go to the Soviet Union, when it was difficult to do, and study at the feet of Stanislavski, and then bring back all of their different ideas of it. And from that, we get method acting, right? And even if people don't like, I don't know. I don't know if I've asked you, do you like considering yourself a method actor today?
I actually consider myself more of a Meisner guy.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm outside in. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while, but it seems like the method is a little bit more inside out.
Well, I mean, that's what I mean. That even people who don't like to say that they're method, they're all coming from this place of this change in acting that is happening at the same time in the 30s and 40s, like based on Stanislavski. Right. So some people are outside in, some people are inside out. But the basic idea of like you trying to connect psychologically to your character, that's method acting. Before that was not what the deal was. So Olivier did not give a shit about whether he was like Richard III. He didn't need to understand Richard III. He just needed to play the part, right? And so he wasn't really necessarily so he would do things today that we would consider, outside in, like you're saying, Meisner, and care about the costume and the prop, etc. But he wasn't really concerned whether he felt like Richard III or not.
Okay.
And then there's other method acting schools that are more about the imagination, right? The supposition or the what if, or whatever you want to call it. But that's all the same. That's all radically different from what came before it. So So again, a lot of people wouldn't want to call themselves method actors because it has sort of this bad connotation of like being a dick on stage, like purposefully not cooperating with your castmates or your director, or making ridiculous statements like my character would never do that, even though it's in the script that your character does do that. So people don't like that term. But anyways, yes. Lee J. Cobb was one of the very most important of them because he performed in Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman, and he was the original Willy Loman. So that, we associate method acting with both like this studying at the feet of Stanislavski, this rise of these theater groups and these theater schools, and also this new breed of American plays by Arthur Miller and Tennessee Williams specifically, right? So, to be the original Willy Loman in the entire first run of Death of a Salesman. So there was no other person had played Willy Loman in its initial run on Broadway. So he didn't like leave early and get replaced. It was him. That's a huge, huge, huge deal.
Yeah.
So,
and just to add a little bit to that, folks. So, like when an actor is the first person to play a character, like in Death of a Salesman or in other, I'm thinking Dracula. I'm thinking Bela Lugosi. I'm thinking, was Marlon Brando the first to do
Stanley Kowalski? Absolutely.
Yes, right. That, now correct me if I'm wrong, Keenan, but that that sort of kind of informs the way that the character is maybe only half finished until that first actor kind of like steps into the role and brings those words to life. Sure. So
with that first director, right? Yeah, that whole first production.
Right. Yeah, the first production, the first director, the first actor stepping into that role. So you got Lee J. Cobb as Willie Loman, you got Bela Lugosi as Dracula, you got Marlon Brando as Stanley Kowalski.
The first one that came to my mind, even though yours are absolutely correct, the first one that came to my mind was Leslie Odom as Aaron Burr.
Oh, yes.
Like now it's like, how do you play that role without like thinking about how they did it on Hamilton?
Yes. So it's very, very difficult to, when you have, a revival production or a second production or something like that for the next actor who is playing that big iconic role, not to kind of like dip into what has been kind of established before.
Right.
And I'm thinking everybody does the Dracula voice now, right? Which is not the Dracula voice. It's the Bela Lugosi voice.
Or
right?
How would you not do it, I suppose, right? Yeah. And then I was reading a little bit that that Cobb actually, because, the Miller is describing Willie Loman in the play, and he describes Willie Loman as a shrimp. And so for Cobb, they rewrote that to a walrus, right? Because Lee J. Cobb's not a shrimp, right?
Yeah,
look at this guy. Absolutely not. No. Yeah.
He's a crag, if anything.
He's so craggy. Yeah. So he was a really huge deal on the stage, but then, like Kazan, like Brando, like John Garfield, he went to Hollywood and became a movie actor. And he's most famous for his role in On the Waterfront. And I don't want to go too far off here, but On the Waterfront is usually read as a response to McCarthyism. So if you don't know, I don't know, do you know all this about like Arthur Miller and Elia Kazan and the Blacklist and their breakup?
I know it from The Crucible.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, exactly. Of course, yeah. So there was the Hollywood Blacklist because the Hollywood got caught up with McCarthyism, and McCarthy was attacking the Army and the State Department. But then we had a different branch off of McCarthyism in the House, HUAC, House Un-American Activities Committee, and they were looking through the Kefauver River Commission and places like that. They were looking at Hollywood and trying to find out communists in Hollywood. And of course, there were communists in Hollywood because these were artists who were coming up during the Great Depression. And of course, there were communists there because a lot of people were looking at communism at the time because the economic system had collapsed. So Arthur Miller was really hurt by the fact that Elia Kazan specifically, when he was called to testify to HUAC, he started to name names, it was called. He started to name the names of communists. And Lee J. Cobb was one of those people who was caught in the middle as well. And he ended up naming names. And he ended up saying, like a lot of people who ended up actually like giving names of communists, the way that they, what's the word? They justified it to themselves. They, they sort of like said, oh, it's okay, is that they named people who were already named. So, I'm only giving the names of people who are already under the crossfires of the committee is what Lee J. Cobb would say. You and me, we would like to think that we would not have done that, I imagine.
Right.
But it's, like in the Crucible, it's hard to know what you would do unless you were there.
Precisely. Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
So Miller is writing the Crucible as a response to this and seeing it firsthand. Like Miller and Kazan were like a team, and they would have probably kept working together as a team with Lee J. Cobb, except for this McCarthyist breakup that happened. Yeah. And so they became lifelong enemies from each other. So Elia Kazan makes a movie called On the Waterfront, which is Lee J. Cobb's most famous role, and that is about naming names and justifying naming names, where Marlon Brando's character is being told that, oh, you're like tattling on the mobsters who are being played by Lee J. Cobb, and that's bad. And then Marlon Brando makes this defense and said, like, I'm glad what I done to them because they were wrong, and I named names. So it's this great movie. People who look into the politics of it, because we've now pretty much accepted that naming names is a bad thing, right? Now we start to say, oh, that's strange politics, but what a film. And yeah, Cobb kept working in movies because he named names. He was a friendly witness to the House Un-American Activities Committee. His character's name in On the Waterfront is called Johnny Friendly, which might be a tip to him, like being a friendly witness. And working with McCarthyist. And then my favorite performance of his in movies is in 12 Angry Men, where he is the last holdout as Henry Fonda is trying to switch the jury from guilty to innocent. He's the last one, and he has some of the best speeches of his career, like yelling and screaming and ranting and raving. Yeah. And
guys definitely. Oh, yeah.
No, keep going.
Oh, I was just going to say, guys, definitely check out On the Waterfront and 12 Angry Men. It's like really, really good films.
Yeah, and that's very different from this Lee J. Cobb, right? Because he's normally a ranter, raver, screamer. He's normally, bullying his way around, and that's not what Kinderman is doing.
No, he's kind of like a pontificator, a reflector, I guess almost a daydreamer, or maybe like a masking as a daydreamer. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I guess we'll keep talking about this, but the obvious connection would be to like Columbo, right?
Right. Yes. In fact, I think I like in a previous episode, I messed that up, and I was really? trying to think of Kinderman, and I said Columbo.
Oh, right. Yeah, I was just looking up to make sure I have my dates right. So Columbo would have come out in 1971. So Blatty would have been creating Kinderman at about the same time. It's a little bit hard to say whether he was, taking inspiration from Columbo or not. But I don't know. I haven't seen a smoking gun in that respect. Yeah.
Well, certainly from the book. I mean, I don't know much Columbo, but I know what he's kind of like famous for is this kind of like fake absent-mindedness.
Right.
Type of thing where he pretends to be kind of like a putz and he's like a bumbler, but like he's really, really clever. Much more so in the book. That is our Kinderman. Kinderman is very, very much that. And yeah, I don't doubt that Blatty was a Columbo fan.
Yeah. I wonder, because Columbo was such a huge deal at the time. So I just wonder. It'd be interesting to see if it's more than just like a coincidence. Because he's very similar. Although people do point out the similarities between Columbo as a detective and the detective in this French horror movie called Diabolique. So that detective is also sort of absent-minded. You totally write him off, and then he's solving the mystery the whole time. And there's a scene, I believe, where he wears sort of a raincoat or a trench coat that looks like Columbo. Yeah, so it's possible that they're sort of concurrently created and sort of both at the same time trying to do a spin on what the detective was, like like the detective who like comes in and solves everything and is in control, and this one looks like he's not in control.
I wonder what the zeitgeist was, if there was one like at that time, right? Because you got Kinderman, you got Columbo, and you got Diabolique and all that, right? And they're all sort of kind of almost like the anti-Sherlock Holmes, right?
Or like Inspector Clouseau would have been about the same, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
That oh, my God. Wait, you know who wrote Inspector Clouseau?
That's
William Peter Blatty. What are we talking about? So he wrote a Clouseau sequel. He didn't write the first Clouseau, but he wrote A Shot in the Dark. Oh, of course.
Okay. So he's, and like the more I think about it, God, how deep does this go? I got my red threads and I got my corkboard here, but no, his sequel to this book, The Exorcist, Legion, Kinderman is the main character,
right?
And he's doing his thing, he's doing his shtick. He's very schmaltzy, and he spends a lot of time with Father Dyer, and a lot of self reflections in his head. I don't know. It's I will say it's a different flavor to be in his head all the time rather than be a character like Karras or like Chris, being on the receiving end of Kinderman's schmaltz. Right. And I honestly prefer this.
Where we don't know that he's really a genius inside.
Yes. I like this because it's like, oh, I see what you did, Blatty, you clever guy, right? And clever Kinderman. Yeah. But okay, so question, Keenan, because we got Blatty, who seems to be. I'm looking at my corkboard again. in my red threads. And, he seems to be the center of like all of these notable people, right? We got Shirley MacLaine, whom, Chris McNeil is based upon.
Mm-hmm.
We got Jack McGowran, right, who plays the fool in Paul Scofield's King Lear, which is mentioned in the book. We got Kinderman, who is, played by Lee J. Cobb, who in the book is mentioning On the Waterfront. And then we got Tom Birmingham, who was written in the book as Tom Birmingham before he was cast, and it's just making me wonder, like, what was Blatty thinking when he was writing this? Was he planning on casting these people? Was he making all these little winks and nods, or was this just because like these are the people he knew, and it was like, oh, isn't it great that we got Jack McGowran and and all these other people?
Right. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, he's a screenwriter first, I suppose, right? Who's then writing a novel. So maybe he is thinking about casting in a way that a novelist wouldn't necessarily be thinking.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a couple of Kinderman minutes in a row here, and it's good that we spend some time on Lee J. Cobb. And I was looking up because he's also famous for television, TV shows that I haven't seen much of, like this Western called The Virginian, and then this movie, the show called The Young Lawyers, which I had studied in grad school because that was like that was his most recent role right before The Exorcist, and that one is about like bleeding heart liberal hippie kids, and they're interracial. Like there's a black lady and then two white guys, and so they're like the up and coming, like we're going to fight for justice, with our new law degrees or whatever, and they haven't passed the bar yet, so they have to like work with Lee J. Cobb, who's kind of the curmudgeon, and he's like, you all gotta settle down here, take your time. It's called The Young Lawyers with Lee J. Cobb.
It's just called The Young Lawyers?
Yes, exactly, The Young Lawyers.
What?
Yeah, it's like the mod squad of lawyer shows.
Raising the bar, lowering the bar. Like, I can think of so many other things. Call the next witness. I don't know.
Yeah, but they're young. That's the thing. I mean, they couldn't say young interracial lawyers, but that's what it is.
Let's just throw every adjective, teenage, mutant, ninja, lawyers.
I'm interested.
Yes. One of them has a nunchuck.
Right, that's on Futurama. Their version of Ally McBeal is single female lawyer.
Right, exactly. Depressed boxing priest.
Oh, yeah. Depressed boxing priest with Regan and Howdy.
Yeah.
We're going to get into trouble.
Oh, come on, Captain Howdy. It's Regan who's the instigator.
Right.
Yeah. But then, you got that scene. It's actually in the opening song. It's like Karras with his arms folded, right? And he's looking at both of them, right? And they're standing like they're in trouble. And it's like, now which of you did this? And they both point to each other, right? It's like, oh, these scamps.
You scamps. I just want your soul to keep.
But no, this one, we would lean heavy on the Pazuzu, right? He would be Pazuzu, and it would be almost like a Dora the Explorer type thing. But they would go like to what am I talking about? No, Dora the Explorer. Yeah. But they would go to like different. That's what a Magic School Bus type thing, right?
Magic School Bus.
And they would go to like different places, like ancient Egypt and ancient Mesopotamia, right? And Father Marin would be Dr. Marin. Right, because there's no priests here, but he would be like this archaeologist, this old Indiana Jones guy, and he'd be teaching about the temples and the pyramids and the mummies and everything like that, right? And Captain Howdy would it would be Pazuzu. He'd like sidle up to something that says "Do not touch," and it's like, "Oh, you touched it, didn't you, Pazuzu?" It's like, ah.
He just wants to grind his skateboard on the pyramids or
exactly,
the Sphinx,
right?
The great ziggurat of Ur.
Skateboard is the raddest invention in 10,000 years.
And he has his backwards baseball cap, but when he turns it, its whole head just turns around.
Because we got to have that. We got to have that in every episode. That has to happen, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and Reagan's the serious one. She wants to get that degree in archaeology. And okay, all right. I think we've exhausted that. Nobody steal this. Patent pending.
Right. We're on the record. This is when we created it. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. We have this. This is proof. Okay. All right. I think we've exhausted this minute. I'm exhausted, as our boy Karis is exhausted over here. Keenan, is there anything we missed?
No, I think we got it.
All right. Folks, this has been another excellent Exorcist Minute. I've been Lester Ryan Clark. You can catch me on all the socials as Lester Ryan Clark.
And I've been Keenan Diaz, and you can find me on Instagram and Letterboxd as Howdy Keenan.
Yeah. Our website for the show is theexorcistminute.com. We also have a Facebook page, so if you like us and you want to share us with your friends, you can head on over there. We also have a listener group on the Facebook. It is called Compelling Conversations, an Exorcist Minute listener group. Just request to join and we'll let you in. You can be in here with us. And as always, if you'd like to leave us a message, our email is theexorcistminute@gmail.com, all one word. Lastly, if you like the show and you want to help us out, the best thing you can do for a new podcast that's just starting out is to head on over there and leave a 5-star review, and that'll help other people find us, and we can keep growing this cool community. Guys, come on, do it. We got some other Movies by Minute podcasts that have just started, and they're already getting more reviews than us. We're calling upon you. We are summoning you. We are. This is where the Catholic Church gets a little bit needy, and it's like, okay, now we need you to make donations.
Right, pass the plate around.
Right, pass the plate. I haven't inserted ads yet, but yeah, there we go. Okay, Keenan, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think I am, Lester.
Folks, until next time, the power of Dave Seville compels you.
Regan!